Hey, how you doing? Justin here. Today we are going to learn about playing in other keys. Now, so far in Series 1 of the Blues League Guitar course, we've only been looking in the key of A, and I really strongly recommend that you get yourself to the point where you feel confident in the key of A and can pull off a pretty decent solo before you start exploring other keys. Now, the reason for that is if you're ever jamming with someone, it's nice to feel confident in a particular key, and A is the most common key for guitar players. If I got a new student in and they want to jam a blues and they want to work on that kind of stuff, it's pretty much always a blues in A that they choose, and that's a pretty universal kind of a thing. So getting solid in that key, it means if you're jamming with someone for the first time that you've got a stable base to start from. However, playing in other keys is also really important. So how do you go about doing that? So the first thing you need to do is know the key you're in. Okay, you might want to go and check out the lesson called 12 bar in 12 keys. Okay, it's a really important idea to realize that the chords and the scales and everything are related. And particularly in blues, you're mostly using a thing called the 1, 4, 5 chords, okay? So once you get an idea of what the 1, 4, and 5 shape is, the relationship of the root notes of the chords, once you understand that, seeing where the root note is pretty simple. Now, if you're playing a 12-bar blues in the open position, you're almost certainly going to know what key you're in because it'll be the first chord. So if you're doing this, you're going to know, oh, I'm in the key of A, and all of the stuff that we've been doing so far will make sense. If you were starting here, on this, you probably know that that's an E as well, so you'd know you were in the key of E. But how does that work with all of those lead solos, especially this one's the open position? That gets a little bit tricky. Now, you can play the minor pentatonic and the blues scale in an open position, but I want to first of all explain this idea of the root note. So this was the key of E. Now, where is the note E on the thicker string? So, well, it's the open position, but it's also up at the 12th fret. So if you put your first finger up on the 12th fret and play pattern 1, you're now playing in the key of E. So if somebody's doing your rhythm guitar like that in E, okay, you can use that minor pentatonic pattern 1 up at the 12th fret. Okay, all of the blues licks and all of that sort of stuff as well, that all works there up at the 12th fret. Now, you already know pattern 2, and hopefully you've been doing a bit of practice on linking patterns 1 and 2 as well. But what's really important is that you see where that root note was. So we started here with in box 1 or pattern 1 with the first finger in the 12th fret of the thicker string. Now, if we wanted to look for pattern 2, we'd want to move over 2 strings and up 2 frets. So first finger would be in the 14th fret of the 4th string. Okay, let me just run that by again. We're going to do it in a couple of other keys. We started off with our first finger in the 12th fret of the thicker string for box 1. Okay, if we want to find box 2, we're going to move first finger down 2 strings and up 2 frets. And then we're going to find our pattern for box 2. Okay, very simple. You could also think of it as where you put your third finger down on the 4th string. So you went first finger, 4th finger, first finger, 3rd finger, first finger, 3rd finger. If you then swap fingers, you've found yourself in your box 2. Okay, now this is a really big deal if you learn the notes on the fingerboard, which I really strongly recommend you do. Like, to be honest, almost every other instrument other than guitar, people think that you're a complete moron if you don't know the notes on your instrument. Like, you won't meet a piano player or a sax player who doesn't know where all of the notes are on their instrument. But I've still occasionally met professional guitar players who don't know all of the notes on their fingerboard very well, okay? Real good ear players that can kind of get away with it, usually older guys that have played for a long time. It's possible, but it's really so much better and so much faster to learn things if you know where the notes are on the fingerboard. So if you're not doing that already, I'd really urge you to explore that as something that you should kind of add into your practice routine. And if you know that as well, it kind of solves that example that we had at the beginning there where we went, well, how do we play that pattern if the E's on the open string? Well, if you know where E is on the 4th string, which hopefully many of you know will be at the 2nd fret of the 4th string, you've got their pattern 2, which you know already. So you've got all your pattern 2 licks that you can play while your mate's playing a blues in the key of E. Now, it really is as simple if you know your 12 bar in 12 keys, and they're starting here at the 8th fret. And they're just doing it like a regular standard 12 bar or whatever. It's literally where your first finger is on that first chord is the key. Right? It's as simple as that. The one chord, the beginning of your 12 bar blues, that's the chord that you really want to watch out for and see if you can find the root note. Now, I remember trying to learn this stuff when I was, I don't know, 13 or 14 years old or something, and I was listening to a lot of Rolling Stones and that sort of stuff, and a lot of blues, Chuck Berry and that kind of stuff. And I remember figuring out this idea that it was the same scale and the same licks, just in different parts of the fingerboard, like starting on a different fret. And I definitely found that by kind of listening and just moving my finger around while I was listening to the track, I could usually find one note that kind of worked through the whole thing. It doesn't work on the 4 chord when the chords change to what's called the 4 chord and the 5 chord, but it kind of works, you know. And so what you'll probably find is something that you want to explore on your own is listening to a track. Chuck Berry is particularly good actually to listen, because most of his songs are pretty straight 12 bar blues. Status Quo is another band that's really good for doing this. Sometimes you get like Eric Clapton and stuff does things that are a little bit different, where he's using chords that aren't the standard kind of 1-4-5 thing. But if you put on one of those tracks, and I'll put some suggested songs as well actually on the website for this particular lesson, I'll put a list of songs that you might want to try this idea with. So if you just put one of those songs on, you just move your first finger around on the thicker string until you find one that sounds kind of right through it. Okay, and then once you're cool with that and you go, okay, then try playing your minor pentatonic over the track, and you'll probably find it works. And then try using your licks, and then once you're used to doing that, try moving from pattern 1 to pattern 2 and move, you know, trying to see those pattern 1 and pattern 2 as one big kind of thing that you can negotiate your way between effortlessly and just move from one to the other. It's a really, really cool kind of little plan. Now, that's the kind of the ear approach, okay? And I think the ear approach has got a lot of good things going for it, because you should be learning to transcribe and remembering that blues is it's passed on by listening. That's how the great blues masters that we all love, they learn to play by listening to the older guys, and those older guys listened to the older guys that were before them, right? There were, of course, pioneers back in the early day, Robert Johnson and Blind Lemon Jefferson, all of that crew that really did a lot of inventing. But since then, a lot of it's been copying and interpretation. So you really got to get your ear on, and the sooner you start listening to stuff and really trying to work stuff out on your own, the better blues guitar player you're going to be, without question. So trying to learn to pick a key by ear is also a really cool thing. And if you've done my blues rhythm guitar course, and if you haven't done it, I recommend you go and do it as your next port of call, because you'll really find it useful to be able to play in different keys straight away. Now, if you're using my backing tracks, my Jam Blues backing track series, all of the track titles have got the key in it as well, in the name of it. So that's also an easy way to do it. If I say, oh, it's a 12 bar blues in the key of G, okay? Do you know where G is on the bottom string? I hope you do, okay? G is the 3rd fret of the thicker string. So if you're playing a blues in the key of G, just move your scale down there to the 3rd fret. Once you've practiced the scale, start practicing the licks. Get confident in pattern 1. Then look for that root note, the move to pattern 2. Practice pattern 2. Practice licks from pattern 2. Practice playing 1 and 2 joined together like it's effortless and it's just one big scale that you can move around in. Okay? It's a really, really good thing, and it's probably the most important step between this first series of Blues League Guitar and the second series is really getting confident at playing in different keys. Okay, I always think it's a good idea learning in one key, but now you've got to spend a bit of time transitioning to being able to play in lots of keys, because the old school approach was you learned one pattern and then you started changing keys straight away. But I think it's a really good idea to have pattern 1 and pattern 2 and starting to see the link between them before you start changing keys. That's my approach, and I'm pretty sure that it works. I've seen a lot of students make a lot of great progress with it, but it isn't the only way. I should point that out. There's lots of different ways of learning this stuff, you know. And I still think, I don't want to go on about it too much, but I still think the best way of all of the ways is just listening to loads of blues and trying to figure it out on your own. You really learn a lot that way. But you know, getting together some of this knowledge-based stuff, the scale forms and how they work and Lincoln patterns and how to do vibrato and how to do bends and all that sort of stuff is really going to help you, and it's going to accelerate your learning, you know. And we're all pushed for time these days, so I think you'll find that pretty valuable to explore that. So few little things that you want to do between now and starting Series 2. First of all, see if you can learn to hear the key of a different blues. Okay, so check out the songs that are listed on my website, have a listen through, see if you can work out what key they're in, and then have a go at improvising over the top, because learning to play over the top of the other guys is completely cool. Chuck Berry will not mind if you jam along with Johnny B. Good and play your own licks over the top. He really won't, right? And it's great fun, and you'll really start to pick up a lot of the language and the vibe and the groove and everything else. Secondly, have a go at using as many of my jam blues tracks as you can, where there's loads of different styles, loads of different tempos, in loads of different keys. Okay, and because there's no other lead guitar in there to make a muddle for you, you know, you can just have fun and explore all of the different riffs. Because what you're going to find as well is that riffs, should have said licks there really, but all of the different licks, depending on the tempo, are going to feel quite different. A lick that feels at a certain tempo that you've been practicing, suddenly if you try and play it real slow, it feels a bit weird. So you have to find kind of how to adapt your language, how to adapt your vocabulary for the different keys. And it's a really pretty big deal, this. And for most people, it's a few months worth of study, right? Don't just think that, oh, I can quickly jam this blues in C and that one in F and I'm done. You know, you're going to spend a bit of time consolidating this stuff and really getting to know it. And like I said, listening to the blues is really going to help, and trying to figure out the key of the blues that you're listening to and trying to play along with it as well would also be a really big deal. So I really hope you've enjoyed this course and you heed what I'm saying and really put a bit of practice time in before you join me for Series 2, because in Series 2 we're going to be looking at playing all over the neck. So we've looked at pattern 1 and pattern 2. In the next series we're going to be looking at patterns 3, 4 and 5 and a bunch of other stuff as well, new techniques and new ways of transitioning and a whole lot more. So more subtle things that you'll probably enjoy. So I really hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you for plenty more lessons very soon. You all take care of yourselves and each other. Bye bye.